Is 10,000 say good enough for me? Now, even though I can't speak on anyone's behalf, and even though nothing I say is financial advice, I would say yeah, especially assuming if, let's say, hypothetically, say were to go to the price of $10 during this bull run. Now, let's do some basic math. 10,000 say times $10, that's $100,000. Some people may think it's kind of bad, some people may think it's good, but the way you take a look at it is that hypothetically that's pretty good because let's say out of that $100,000, I save 30% of that. I'm not even saying like 50 or whatever, I'm saying 30. I use it for the next cycle. Again, $30,000. For the next cycle, let's say there's a 10x there, $300,000. How's that bad? You know what I mean? That's the way to take a look at it. Not only is it pretty good, but it can even be used for the next cycle too. Not to mention as well, I know some people out there with around $50,000, they were able to travel the world for years. Around 2 years actually to be exact, but I'm just saying. They were able to do that, not going to 5-star hotels or 5-star restaurants every day, but they were able to travel the world, meet new people, gain new experiences. So again, I don't think $100,000 is bad, let alone $50,000. Also, even beyond that, many people that I know out there, they're not only just holding SEI, they're holding a bunch of other projects. So if let's say somewhere along there, their holding becomes $100,000, I know personally a lot of people out there that wouldn't complain about that. Now, not to mention, some other people out there, they may think, okay, $10, man, that's a little bit too much. Well, is it really? If it were to go to that price, considering current circulating supply, at that point, market cap would be around $50 billion, around a 38x from here. Now, why isn't $50 billion too much to ask for? Because that may be a concern to some people, right? But the way you take a look at it is this. Let's say during a fully fledged bull run, let's say Bitcoin went to the price of around $300,000, and let's say market cap's around $6 trillion, and let's say somewhere along there, Ethereum maybe reaches $2 trillion in terms of market cap. So that's combined $8 trillion, right? Now keep in mind, in a trillion, that's 1,000 billion, and in a billion, that's 1,000 million. So that's a very big amount. And that's just from those two projects alone in this example, not including, something like, let's say BNB, Solana, all this type of stuff. Not saying that. I was saying including just Bitcoin and Ethereum. Now, at 8,000 billion, right, with that valuation, let's say hypothetically, would around 50 billion have a hard time flowing into this direction, let's say? I really don't see why not, especially when I consider how SEI is allegedly the world's fastest parallel blockchain, which some people may think, that's kind of like gimmicky, who cares? Well, let's take a look at that deeper, because if we take a look at it, the transaction finality time of Bitcoin is around 60 minutes, so that's an hour. Yeah, I don't think it's that good, especially for right now, but of course the Bitcoin blockchain is very secure, so I'll give it that. Not to mention, we take a look at Ethereum, it's around 6 minutes, not bad, especially considering how Ethereum, launched way back when, and also is very popular as a layer 1 blockchain. I'm totally aware of that. But then you want to know something that takes it to a different level. That's something called Solana. Solana is around 2.5 seconds. Very, very impressive. Solana is a very wonderful layer 1 blockchain. I'm very bullish on it. I love Solana-based meme coins. But even besides that, what takes it to the next level? What takes it an extra step? That's something called SEI, because again, SEI is around 380 milliseconds. Again, it's transaction finality time. That's literally less than half a second. I mean, could you imagine that? Again, Bitcoin around an hour, Ethereum around 6 minutes, Solana around 2.5 seconds. SEI is like, you know what? We're going to do it way better, less than half a second. I mean, that's how amazing SEI is. Does SEI have the best adoption? Absolutely not. Is it the most popular? No. But does it really matter? I mean, fundamentally, it's very amazing. And I think in the world of cryptocurrencies, especially as of right now, I'm not talking what the space could be 5, 10, 15 years down the line. I'm just saying right now, people usually care about the narrative. They care about the story. They care about what something could be, right? So when people take a look at something like SEI, and you know what? They say, which is kind of like, rhyming with SEI, but I'm just saying, when they take a look at this and they're like, whoa, this is the world's fastest parallel blockchain allegedly, it means something. And this could be maybe a big narrative for this bull run. Not to mention, we'll see that when it comes to SEI as well, it can facilitate allegedly 12,500 transactions per second, and it's even been able to process over 1 billion transactions. So that's very amazing. Not to mention as well, SEI is being supported by Circle, which is the creator of USDC, the stablecoin. Many people's number two go-to stablecoin out there. That's very wonderful. And I think that seeing something like that when it comes to SEI, it just truly speaks volumes because it showcases that they're somewhat validified as a premier project. It's not just some random gimmicky thing. Not to mention as well, we'll see that when it comes to the SEI ecosystem, there are some pretty good AI projects. Now, do I think it's bad? Absolutely not, because some people like to say, oh man, when it comes to AI, you know, a lot of the win was kind of taken out of its sails. They think that, oh, the hype kind of disappeared. I don't think so. I think better days are ahead because if we take a look at the AI market, is it as big as it could be as of right now? No, I don't think so, because according to Grandview Research, the AI market is predicted to reach nearly $2 trillion by 2030. I mean, 2 trillion, let's just let that sink in. That's bigger than a lot of countries' GDP. That's pretty wonderful right there. Not to mention as well, we'll see that when it comes to SEI, I think that even though, again, the ecosystem isn't the best, I think it's heading up there, and I think it's heading in a good direction. If we take a look at Ethereum, I think it's very wonderful, but really, it has sky-high gas fees, which I'm not a fan of. Also, arguably not even scalable. I get it. There are Ethereum layer 2s out there to kind of fix this type of stuff, but SEI doesn't need that, right? SEI doesn't really need all these random layer 2s to kind of do this, do that. It's good straight up the box, so to speak. But is it really somewhat expected? I think so, because Ethereum somewhat has the first mover advantage. Like many people, when they think about a layer 1 blockchain, they think about Ethereum automatically. They don't think about Algorand, Avalanche, they don't think about that type of stuff. So I think SEI kind of benefited from not having that quote unquote first mover advantage because they were able to kind of see, hey, what's wrong? What are they doing right? What is really needed? So of course, it makes sense why SEI is that good. But in my opinion, moving forward, because Ethereum just can't change drastically its fundamentals like that, the way I view it is that SEI could hypothetically become a premier place for projects to be 5, 10, 15 years down the line. Now, some people out there, they may think, again, that's too long, but people care about the narrative. And I think, if anything, it kind of showcases that, SEI could very well have a place moving forward. I don't feel like it's something that's going to disappear after 1 or 2 cycles. You know what I mean? If SEI is something that is arguably better than Cardano, something that is arguably better than Ethereum, and those 2 projects, right, were able to make it for years, why can't this make it for years as well moving forward? This is just my opinion. But even besides that, all I have to do right now is stay patient, because that's the only thing I can control. I can't demand the markets to go up and do this, do that. I can't do that, right? So in the meantime, I'm going to be accumulating, holding, and just waiting. And I'm not stopping at just 10,000 SEI. You know what I mean? Of course, I'm continuously accumulating more and more, but I'm just saying at least 10,000 is not a bad amount, in my opinion. Now, not to mention, I think something that's very bullish currently is the fact that we have over 600 million crypto owners, according to Crypto.com research. But what's crazy about this is not just the fact that it is around twice the amount that we saw when compared to the peak of the 2021 bull run. Not only that, I think what's even more bullish about this is the fact that we have never ever seen Bitcoin reach the price of $150,000 yet, at least at the time of this recording. We haven't seen it reach 200,000, let alone, or even 300,000. So if that were to happen, and let's say somewhere along there, Ethereum reaches $10,000 or $15,000, whatever, right? Would there only be around 600 million crypto owners, or would there be 700 million, even over 800 million? That really wouldn't surprise me. This is just my point of view, though. So I think that, if anything, is very bullish, because if there's that much attention, that much, awareness when it comes to cryptocurrencies with that many individuals, could you imagine some may be flowing into SEI? And SEI has proven, historically that, it did gain a lot of attention. Just take a look at the market cap even right now. It's one of the biggest projects out there, relatively speaking. It's not the biggest, it's not top 10, but, it's pretty big in the grand scheme of things. But I'm just saying, this is, I think, going to be hypothetically so bullish when it comes to SEI. But again, it's just a waiting game. And historically speaking, altcoins usually, as a worst case scenario, they typically peak around 18 months after a Bitcoin halving event. And the last one happened in April of last year, so 18 months would actually mean around October this year. Is that a surefire date? Will history always guaranteed, or should I say, will it always be guaranteed to repeat itself? No. I mean, there's no telling, right? Only time will tell. But in my opinion, it doesn't seem too outlandish, because from what I'm seeing as of right now when it comes to Bitcoin, despite the small pullback, if it continues this kind of upwards movement all the way up until near the end of this year, let's say, that kind of timeline doesn't seem too far-fetched, which is why I'm still staying patient. And again, $10, that wouldn't surprise me when it comes to SEI. And make sure to subscribe if you gain value from this video. I greatly appreciate it. It's Mali the Captain, and I'll catch y'all on the next one. I'm out. Peace. Bye.